Hello, theme park enthusiasts, and welcome back to Planet Coaster. In the last episode, we went ahead and built this ride here, and we struggled to make the achievement we needed for it. So, as you can see, I have made some changes here, but in reality, I've made quite a few changes. We've gone ahead and got both the bronzes, both the silvers, and one of the gold challenges done. And I'm going to show you in this episode the coasters that I used to do it. As I said, I had already built these coasters before, and they are all available on the Steam Workshop. So we're going to take a ride on each of these coasters. But the thing you have to do with these coasters overall in order to make them work is twofold. First of all, you need to theme your entrances for them. So we'll get to these coasters over here in a minute. But for Desperado here, I went ahead and put in some different actors, some explosions, things like that to attract people into it. Secondly, you need some flat rides around to attract people to them. And then if you want to achieve the challenge fairly quickly, there is a little bit of a cheat to get through it quickly. There's one challenge I haven't done yet, and it's not because I can't, it's because I wanted to wait to show you here in the video. But with that in mind, let me take you around the park a little bit. So we have Desperado, where we had put it before, put in some flat rides here, and then we have these two RMCs that are actually for the bronze challenge. We have Cowboys and Bandits, and what they are is basically, for the two challenges, you had to do the same thing here. The big difference between the two of them isn't really the excitement, fear, nausea type of things, but it's this one is at most 3 inversions, and this one's at least 4 inversions. So I wanted to make racing coasters that achieve this. Right now the one is broken, the Bandits one. But what I did to put in that extra inversion was just here at the top. This one, before it goes down the drop, does do one extra inversion. So with that, they're basically the same exact coaster, just the one has the extra inversion to it. So that covers the bronze ones. Desperado took care of one of the 2 silvers. The other silver coaster is actually across the park here in this area over here. Haven't done anything to change these 2 track rides. They still crank in a ton of people, which is good for the park. As you can see, we're almost at 4,000 people overall. Same thing over here. I've got my Insanity of Carousel. We've got this ride over here, and I put in another Zozo because they just attract so many people to them all the time. But here's my silver coaster that I put in. And with it, it's a winged coaster. The one thing I will note is, if you use the coasters from the workshop that I've put in here, this one's name is Falcon's Flight. In the workshop, I have it set up running 2 trains, as it is right now, because it does get enough guests to it where it cranks through the guests and needs the 2 trains. But for the actual challenge, you need to reduce it to 1 train in order to get the speed requirement that you need, in order to get the excitement level, I believe it is. So do change it to 1 train, get the achievement done. I'll show you the trick, as I said here, in a little bit for it, but you do want to theme up your entrance. Once you've got the achievement done, you can put it back to 2 trains, and that way you'll crank in more money. Because the biggest thing with this thing is just trying to get the money you need to set everything up. Our final area over here is where my gold coaster is. This one was actually the hardest coaster to create, because this coaster had to have at least 7 excitement, at least 5 fear, at most 4 nausea. So balancing these 3 things was really quite challenging, especially when you have to have at least 5 inversions. So same thing here, I put in some rides to attract people down. Notice again, I did put in a Zozo because the Zozo just really gets people to it the most. This coaster, because of the absolute size of it here, I did go ahead and name Coaster 666, so wanted sort of an evil theme with it, and I continued that with the theming of the actual place. The building itself is black with red trim, and the entrance is surrounded by fire here. And for the first time, I sort of used some of the Ghostbuster stuff here, because the dogs from Ghostbuster really do have that demon look that I feel works well. So put those in throughout, was able to sort of achieve the look I was going for. So as I said, we'll go ahead and ride all of those here in a few minutes. With that then, this coaster I'm going to take out and put in the hard coaster, and I'll show then how it is we go ahead and get the final challenge done. But with that in mind, let's go ahead and start by riding this first coaster. Now, with that coaster, you may have noticed that some of the banking, especially, well, some of the track even, especially in areas like this, is not the smoothest. That's because when I was building the coaster originally, I had this bigger and had to adjust it and such, which made these little issues in the track. Normally, if this was like my park, I would want to smooth those out and make it better. But in order to get the requirements I needed for the challenge, I had to leave them in. So it's not that I wanted the coaster to have those little glitches or the fact that like this area here is just flat without any curve to it, but in order to meet the requirements that I needed for the particular challenge, I had to do that. Now there is a reason this coaster is going to be going away here in a few minutes, and I'll explain that when we get back to it. But first of all, let's go ahead and ride the other coasters. We've ridden Desperado in the past. We'll go ahead and ride Bandits next, because Bandits is the one that's got the extra inversion. Otherwise, the two coasters are pretty much mirror images of each other, so there's no real need to ride both of them. We'll just go ahead and ride Bandits, and after that, we'll continue with the last coaster that we're going to ride before we install the one to complete the challenge. Alright, and with those two, I really did try my best to make sure that the trains pretty much got to the end at the same time. I made little adjustments in the track here and there to slow one down or the other, just to make them as even as possible, because that's the whole thing with a racing coaster. You want that sort of fun race to the end. It's one thing that I hope if they make a Planet Coaster 2, which I definitely hope they do, that they do change, is that let the outcome sort of be determined by the guest size and such. Have there actually be weights to the guests, and so therefore it affects the ride. Because right now, each train will do the exact same thing every single time, no matter how many riders or what the weight of those riders are. So it's a very minor detail, but I would love for them to do that little change just to make it that much more interactive. The other change that I have for the game, and it's really one of my only complaints in the game at all, is with the RMCs. There are certain places, like right here, that the supports for the coaster collide with the coaster, and I wish they would fix that in the new game whenever the new game is made, because these supports are actually just part of the coaster there. I didn't put them in, and yet you do see it, especially in certain RMCs. I have the same problem over here with Coaster 666, where some of the structure does collide with the passengers as you're going through. And we will ride Coaster 666, but it's the big coaster of the park, so I sort of want to leave it to the end just as a highlight. Let's go ahead and deal with this final challenge and what we're doing over here. So, for the final challenge, really the thing is, this coaster is very, very similar, I realized, to this coaster. This coaster here had to have at least 6 excitement and at least 5 fear. This one has to have at least 6 excitement and at most 4 fear. So the big challenge was taking this coaster, Falcon's Flight here, and taming it a little bit, making it a little bit watered down in order to achieve this challenge. And that's exactly what I did. I played around with what I had created for the Silver Coaster and edited it to make it work. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and pause the game, and we're going to delete this coaster. We'll take that money that we get out of it, and we'll go to the blueprints here, and we'll go to Goldmine Tower Coaster, which we don't have enough money for right now. So we'll go into finances, get ourselves a loan here, and that way we have enough finances. Not really worried about anything else right now, just want to get the coaster done. So we've got the money for it. As you can see here, we have 6 excitement, 3.92 fear, and 1.69 nausea. So, it's the requirements here. All I'm going to try to do is get it so that it fits into my pre-existing buildings and such already, so that way I don't have to redo everything. That's sort of the goal here. Make it a little bit easier on myself. Might be some slight glitching to it, but overall, it'll work. And really, as I said, we're just trying to get done with the actual achievements here. That's the main goal. I wouldn't mind it being pretty. I mean, I have worked hard to make this park nice overall. Does look like the paths are lined up there fairly well now. I already have the paths and the area design, so that works out great. We're going to have just one train on here. We're going to have to test it, and hopefully it should meet these requirements then. So let's go ahead and get it started, and we'll just ride it as it goes here. As I said, we might clip with the building or something a little bit, but the whole point was to get this coaster in. And hopefully there you were able to see the slight differences that I made. I'll go ahead and go over them here once we get the ratings in. And this coaster does fit that requirement. Now we're not going to achieve it right now. We're actually going to wait till the end of this month, and then we'll go for it this next month. Because you have to get the 3,000 within a month. I'm not going to change anything up for right now. We'll just let it run, generate some money on its own if it can here. But the biggest changes to this coaster are right here, and then right here at the end. So the things I did is I put in this brake run here that is much more significant than it was on the previous version of the coaster. And then the other change I had to make was at the end of the run here, I took out one of the hills basically, and I lowered the excitement slightly, but with doing that I also lowered the fear just enough in order to get it under that margin. So when you compare the two coasters here, we have this one at 606 and 392, and then this one at 637 and 407. So those slight tweaks make the difference. Could I have made it where it does both at the same time? No, because of the fact that I had to have at least 5 fear with this one, and even running the 2 trains, it was still just above. That was my hope was, and that's why I did it the way I had. I had hoped with the 2 trains, I would just be able to get it above, and then all I'd have to do is change between 2 trains and not. Couldn't exactly do that, so I made the slight tweaks to it to make it work. But with that in mind, we've got these coasters running. We'll go ahead and go on coaster 666 right now, and that way we can enjoy it while we're waiting for this month to tick along here. See if coaster 666 is in the station. Oh, it's climbing the lift hill right now. got the ride in just before it broke down, actually, so that works out all right. We got no mechanic available. That's not a great thing. Deal with that real fast. You know what? We don't need this inspected right now. We need you over here to deal with this coaster. Go ahead and deal with that if you would, please. Thank you. Alright. He's fixing the breakdown there. Got a bunch of people that are going to walk out of this line, which won't be the worst thing in the world here. So, really, we just got to wait for the month to end. We'll enjoy the fireworks display here when it does. But yes, overall, these coasters do work for what I wanted. I will fully admit, when I started this, I was still I had been out of amusement parks for some time now, so I understood basically a wooden coaster and such, and I feel like my wooden coaster here is quite nice, and a wooden coaster I would really enjoy doing and riding on. Wing coaster, I've always loved wing coasters, and personally with a wing coaster, as you see with the ones I've designed, I really like airtime on them. I like them to give you that feeling of just flying, and I feel like this one does a great job of that, so I've always enjoyed that. But in the time I was away from roller coasters, a new company had come in here in RMC, something that I was very unfamiliar with. I had not been on an RMC. I didn't know what an RMC was. So I sort of saw it. It looked like a wooden coaster, but it was a wooden coaster that could go upside down. And so in the designs that I made here originally, I think you somewhat see my naivety to it. I didn't know how they really worked, so I put in some loops and stuff here because of the fact I was able to. Does it really feel like a true RMC? I don't think so. I feel like I need to, in the future, make RMCs that are more RMC-like. Now, there is something I do really love about this coaster I made, which is this dive loop that makes you dive down upside down. I do feel like that's something that could go on in an RMC, and so it's something I really enjoy in my coaster. But some of the just barrel rolls I put in there, yes, they do have those, but the overall design of the coaster just doesn't feel quite right. And as I said, now that I'm more familiar with it, what the RMC brand is and such, I hope in the coasters I create in the future that it'll be a bit better. But at the same time, it does fit what I needed for the particular challenge here. Just try to get the whole park in view here as we watch the fireworks display. But as I was saying, it does fit what I needed for these challenges, so that's a good thing. What we're actually going to do here too is we're going to wait till right about, let's say day 29, and we're going to start doing what we need to in order to get the people over to this coaster. This coaster is going to be called Calm Bird, after the other one was, of course, Falcon's Flight. So what we are going to do here, oh, Desperado broke down. That's actually okay right now. Alright, so we're going to pause there with 20 on the 29th. So we have 3,768 people in the park. What we're going to do that is sort of the cheat for this particular level that works really well. We need to focus on Calm Bird. So what we're going to do is we're going to close all our other rides. This is going to force people to go towards the one ride that is open. I'm closing them a little bit before the end of the month because it takes a little bit for the people to come out of the different lines. Now, this is also why I did this off camera for the most part, because what's going to happen is my money is going to drop into a severe negative number here. As each guest leaves the line, you have to give them their money back for that particular ride. So it's really going to reduce the number of guests in the lines and stuff. We're also going to have guests that leave the park. People are not going to be happy overall with this. But what it's going to do is it's going to force people to go towards this coaster over here. And it's going to get the number of riders we need for the next month in order to achieve our last goal. So we'll leave the food shops and stuff open. People can still get drinks and food and everything like that. They can be happy with those things. We'll go ahead and, as I said, just have the rest of the park sort of closed down, and we'll see the sort of mass exodus that's going to happen because of it. but a lot of that mass exodus is going to come over here, so we're going to be good with it. As we can see here, all the people are coming out of their lines here. This is why I wanted to do it a little bit early, so that way we aren't waiting into the next month to get these people out of these lines. You can see the flood of people here, and our numbers already in the red. But what you're going to start to see is there's going to be a decent amount of people going over here now. Alright, now I do need to get over here and close these other rides that have been fixed, because I want the people to only go to Calmbird. And we can see already we've got this nice line of people already piling in here. Make sure that Calmbird is at a good price. 20 bucks is a good price because we need to get $3,000 in profit. So, not that challenging of a thing. We're going to go ahead and speed it up just to get through the month overall. As I said, we're going to go way into the red here. Going to lose a ton of money. People are still trying to get out of these rides here. We're already on the 5th. But notice how many people are now flooding into Calmbird. It's not even actually named that on the front sign. It's still Falcon's Flight, but that's alright. But as I said, if you're just wanting to complete the challenges for these coasters, this is the best way to do it. Really create a park that draws the visitors in. And you notice we haven't lost that many visitors overall. We are losing some, but we haven't lost all of them. And that's the key. The problem we might actually find in the end is we have too many people trying to get into this line. So I might have to extend a line or something if that were to become an issue. Does not look like it will be in the end. Should be okay through this challenge. And people are going to shops and stuff. We're at over 35,000 in the negative. As I said, that's just going to happen. It's somewhat the expectation with what I'm doing here, but it's what we got to do. Actually, we have filled up that line. So you know what? At this point, I'm going to let people continue to just pile in as much as possible. I will put another bench. Well, I can't put another bench. Let's see. Can I just move another bench from somewhere else? Let's take this one. Let's move that bench right over there. There we go. Give a place for people to sit. Alright, we're getting people flooding in there as much as humanly possible. We're easily going to make the number, I think. So at this point, we've done it pretty much. Let's go ahead and go down to normal speed, and let's reopen everything else, because I don't want all the guests leaving the park, and I want to start getting money back into the park. And it will take probably over a month to get that money back in. So that's the trade-off you have with doing this, is it does really destroy your financial wealth. So something you have to keep in mind when you do this. But as I said, if your goal is to accomplish the challenges, you can. It is definitely doable. Alright, so all the rides have now opened. You see the swarm of people we have over here. And realistically, a lot of these people are still going to try to get on this particular ride because it is the one that they were coming over here for. When they're not able to because the line's full and stuff, they'll flood these other rides, but that's fine. We'll get the people on these rides, and once they get off, they can go to other places in the park. And you notice quickly the number of our negative numbers starting to go back towards being in the green. It's not going to be an immediate thing, but it is working. You know what? Now we're going to go ahead and move this bench back to where I wanted it, because we don't need it there any longer. Though personally I could use another bench over here. I just don't have the finances for it right now, because I went into the red the way I did. So we're not going to have a fireworks display this time because of the fact that we're in the red. That's fine also. We will get the last challenge through. The thing about it is it takes a little bit after you actually get through the challenge for it to register over here. So the previous month we made 1,833 in profit. We're going to be well over that once we get through this month here. My guess is probably above 4,000. We only needed 3,000. But we'll see. We'll be somewhere in that area at least. I mean, is it very realistic doing this? Absolutely not. Does it complete the challenges though? Yes, without a question it does. And actually, it hasn't taken as much time as I thought it was going to for us to start returning to profits. We're already halfway there, and we were actually close to the $5,000 mark here. So you can see here we made the profit we need. It's now just for this to realize that we have. So we can go ahead out of that screen. There we go. There's our gold star, and we have accomplished the park challenge. So personally, what I'm going to do is switch back to having Falcon's Flight here. Because I just like it better for the park. It runs my 2 trains to it. I get more visitors through. We're going to have an absolute ton of people here that are coming out of this one. And some of them will go right back into Falcon's Flight. Others will go off to other rides. And that's perfectly fine. So, we've achieved the mission. We've actually beaten the scenario now. And we're going to be back in the green in no time. So I do hope this video has helped, and as I said, feel free to use my coasters from the store if really you just want to complete the scenarios but you don't feel like spending all the time to create these coasters yourself. I thought about recreating the coasters a bit when I was redoing the scenarios here for the YouTube channel, but the more I thought about it, it's like, you know, this coaster by itself, I probably spent a good 3 hours getting it to fit within the requirements. And this one over here, I ended up actually having to do in a sandbox mode because the requirements for it were really a challenge. I wanted to make it myself, especially after the failure of the coaster in the King Coaster Park. So I really felt a need to do it myself, but it took a long time to get it just perfect. And with that in mind, I didn't feel like redoing it just for the video. So since I already had it available, I went ahead and used it. We'll get these people out of these congested areas here, and the park will be back to a profitable level. With that in mind though, if you enjoyed what we did in this episode, please go ahead and click that like button. If you've not already, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, so that you're aware when I produce new videos in the future. Thank you, and I hope to see you all again for the next episode of Planet Coaster.